Spectre Vision Radio.
How well do you know Japan? Do you know why so many stone statues of Ojizo and foxes wear red bibs and have pinwheels clicking softly beside them? Are you familiar with the once popular beauty recipe of mixing rusty nails and iron scraps in a tincture of vinegar and strong tea, all so you can dye your teeth the most stunning shade of black? I'm author Teresa Matsura, and for over 35 years, I've been exploring the hidden, fascinating, and sometimes terrifying corners of a country I call home. If you too are charmed by Japan and want to learn a little more about these obscure bits of culture, or if you just want to put on your headphones, close your eyes, and relax while listening to me tell you about a yokai that licks the scum from your drain with its disturbingly long tongue, then Uncanny Japan is for you. Now broadcasting from Spectre Vision Radio. You can find and follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Dewa Mata.
Running a small business means I wear lots of hats. When I put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn Hiring Pro to make it easy. LinkedIn Hiring Pro helps manage my hiring workflow, puts my job post in front of a unique network of professionals, and matches me with the best candidates for my business. I can also share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. No wonder most small businesses say they'd use LinkedIn Hiring Pro again. Hire right the first time. Post your job for free on LinkedIn today at linkedin.com/quality.
Spectre Vision Radio.
Telemetry and launch condition.
Well, some other observers are...
It's late night.
It's late night on the astral plane, where it's never too late. With your host, Ryan Singer.
It's more fun to believe.
Hey everybody, thank you for watching and or listening to another voyage on Late Night on the Astral Plane. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. I'm coming to you from, somewhere in the United States of America. Had a really fun weekend at the Haunted America conference. We're going to recap that a little bit. I want to show you a photo that was taken at that conference, backstage at the Masonic Lodge. You know me, I love a Freemasonry lodge. So I got to see an excellent presentation by Matthew Jackson about ITC and separating, or finding the message in the signal, or deciphering the frequency, and it just a brief history of ITC and some other things that we'll probably touch on as well, as they're very important, and they're, in my opinion, very important when it comes to paranormal research and the future of paranormal research, when it comes to actually being able to, put some clarity to potentially communication and where we may be going and who we may be talking to and or what we may be having a conversation with when it comes to trying to reach beyond the veil or through the veil or through to the past versions of ourselves or whatever it might be. It's all very, very fascinating. In conjunction with that, I'd like to maybe get into a little bit about just the history of remote viewing a little bit, maybe today, because I know it's a prominent theme in the movie Disclosure Day. No spoilers, but I'm still not going to spoil that movie for you. It's only been out a few weeks, but I think, because I touched on a little bit, so I want to do a little more. We'll talk a little bit more about remote viewing here today, and then who knows what else might just pop up, and it may inspire us. It's a full strawberry moon. This week, or the week this is coming out, have been a very beautiful low hanging fruit, the lowest hanging fruit of the year, I believe. The full strawberry moon. I hope you got a chance to go out there and say hello to that gorgeous moon. She is the boss of us all, in fact. We worship the moon over here. So keep that in mind. So much love to the moon goddess, who is at the top of the hierarchy. If we're going to make a hierarchy over here, she's at the top. So yeah, so the Haunted America Conference, which has been going on for 29 years, nearly 30 years, one of the biggest and the oldest paranormal conferences in the country. It started by a guy named Troy Taylor. It takes place in Alton, Illinois. It's a beautiful area this time of year. During the summer, it is absolutely gorgeous over there. You get there and you're like, oh my God, I could live in. You see all these really old houses, and you're just like, oh yeah, I could see myself in that place, because it's green, it's lush with, flora and fauna at this time of year. And then, I'd been through Illinois during the winter, and I got to tell you, it's not my favorite place, just because it's so dang gersh darn it. It's so cold there, gersh darn it. That's what I'm saying now. I'm trying to say gersh darn it. I'm doing an olipop again. I'm doing a Ridge Rush because it's supposed to be the Mountain Dew version. Gersh darn it, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not like getting did on the dew. Let's be honest. Nothing is like getting did on the dew. Okay, so let's not mistake that. Not even the diet did is like getting full throttle did. And I know they came out with an energy drink called Full Throttle. It's not the same. It's no Mountain Dew. Okay. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest. Sugar Trash water is maybe my favorite thing in the world. I was having this conversation, and I'm not trying to run bits on you, but it is a chunk I'm working on in my act about how I love things that suck. And I got to tell you, I had the submarine style chicken sandwich from Burger King today because there's something about that sandwich that I love. I love it. Reminds me of being in grade school and eating chicken sandwiches in the cafeteria again. And many of you might be saying, well, those weren't good chicken sandwiches. And you would be correct in saying that. But something about, the mediocrity of that sandwich resonates so deeply with me. I'll let you figure out the rest from there. So yeah, I love things that suck. I mean, oh my God, I would go get another one tomorrow. Sometimes they do buy one, they do two of the chicken sandwiches for $6 at Burger King. At least they do that in Los Angeles. And if I see that on the marquee, I go in and I get them. I'm not too big. I don't care if I won the Powerball tonight, which by the way, we got to check the numbers. I did check the numbers. Spoiler, didn't win. But even if I won $170 million cash value in the Super Lotto, I would still eat the Burger King chicken sandwich. I want you to know that about me because money wouldn't change me. I mean, it would change lots of things about me maybe, but it wouldn't change my palate. Money can't change the way you taste. It can change your taste, but it can't change the way you taste, right? My taste buds are basic and they will continue to be. And quite frankly, I love them for that because I don't need pretentious taste buds running around inside my mouth. Okay. I don't need taste buds that think they're better than or running around holier than, right? No, my taste buds are like, hey, man, let's end hunger, right? We can dig that. That's why we eat, lest we forget that the reason we eat is to stay alive and to end hunger and to give our bodies fuel. And you might be saying, Ryan, well, the Burger King submarine original chicken sandwich isn't going to be really good, clean fuel for your body to have energy. And you'd be right. But I will tell you this, any fuel is better than no fuel. Okay. And the price point is correct on that sandwich, especially in the Midwest. Okay. Maybe the most paranormal thing about me is that I even with $1 million in the bank, I'll still eat the chicken sandwich from Burger King. And no, I don't have $1 million in the bank. If that's what you're getting ready to ask, like, oh, maybe I should. Actually, this would be a good time to remind you. You can go to patreon.com/Ryan Singer. For $3 a month, you can get no commercials on all these rants about Burger King chicken sandwiches and remote viewing, and info, updates, photos. I'm going to post this photo over here because I'm going to be showing you a photo that was taken of me backstage at the Mason Lodge in Alton, Illinois, and this was on the first floor. Okay, they have a stage there and a big curtain. And before Matthew Jackson's presentation, a few of us were lucky enough to be hanging around when someone goes, "Hey, do you want to go? You want to go backstage?" And because this is supposedly a super haunted area. Now, I will tell you this: before walking in, I experienced really no weird paranormal sensations or vibes. I was kind of milling around the lodge, hearing some history about the lodge, about the man, the world's tallest man. I think he was over 11 or close to 11 feet tall when he actually died. He had gigantus of the pituitary gland, so he unfortunately died at 22 years old from a leg brace that had caused an infection from rubbing because he couldn't feel anything in his lower extremities because he was just so big. And anyway, Robert Wadlow was the guy's name, and he was a Mason for a very short time, but they've dedicated a large portion of their history to him, as one might when you have the world's, or at least for a long time being, or a long time holding, the world's tallest man was from that area. I mean, they have life-size cutouts and statues and stuff of him all over town, and quite frankly, you won't believe how tall he is, how big he is. It is kind of astounding, right? I mean, if you're not 6 feet tall, your waist is at his belt line. And do with that information what you might in your own mind. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, so I wasn't feeling anything strange or particular or extremely peculiar before going to this backstage area. I did feel there was like some ceremonial energy. There seemed to be, and obviously you're bringing a lot of this into it. There's something about that building to me that was immovable. And yes, I did at one point walk off the steps in the main ceremony room. I was like, how many, I want to get the dimensions here. And so I'm kind of like, doing that kind of stuff. I'm observing the artwork that's hung on the wall very purposefully. I'm trying to take it all in. They even had some Order of the Eastern Star stuff on the ceiling because it used to be a lodge for, the co-ed or the female Masons at one point before that lodge disbanded. I'm not sure when, but within the last maybe 30, 40, 50 years, who knows? But anyway, pretty cool to be inside of a lodge. They seem like just such immovable. This one seems so solid and just so, like like nothing could take it down, right? And I think that's the vibe you're going for when you're building something like that, and you're known to be a builder because you're the Masons. So, so anyway, we go in, right? And so I'm doing all that. I'm having a great time at the lodge, actually, and we're gonna take a quick break here. When we come back, I'm going to show you this photo that was taken backstage, because backstage is the hot spot. It's the area where a bunch of stuff happens. So we're going to do that break now. We're going to get this out of the way so I don't have to rush through this and try to get a break in right now. And then we're going to come back and I'm going to show you, I'm going to set it up. So I'm not fumbling through the computer. We're going to set it up, and I'm going to be set up so I can just, boom, do a screen share. And if you're watching the podcast on Spotify, or if you're watching it over on Patreon, commercial free, you'll be able to see the photo I'm talking about. And I'll also post it over on the Patreon page, maybe even for the free patrons. So yeah, we're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer, $3 a month, no commercials.
The coroner says Bonaventure died sometime Tuesday night. Did you murder Bonaventure?
No!
From the director of The Last Exorcism.
Winthrop is not a murderer. And from the moment I met Bono, you could tell something was very off.
Based on the podcast Knife Point Horror.
We are surrounded by evil incarnate. What do you mean, just stop?
Have
a lockbox.
Lockbox, now playing only in theaters.
Okay, I'm back from getting ridge rushed on an Olipop, and I'm going to share my screen here now, and I want to show you this photo. Boom. Yeah, let's just do that right on the photo. There we go. Oh, I gotta move that out of the way so I can actually see what I'm showing you here. So here's a photo that was taken backstage of the stage area of the Mason Lodge. Can I get this damn thing out of the way? Like, I don't need this menu bar anywhere around here. Okay, good. So you probably can't even see that, but hopefully you can. Now look at my face. The only thing in this photo that is blurry is me. Now this was taken for some context. That's a person, if you're looking to the left of the screen, that's a person over there. You're like, wait, I think I see a thing. Anyway, behind me, which would be to my left, you might see like kind of, it looks like there's a staircase. Now, apparently people were feeling an energy back there by the staircase. And apparently there's a guy there who likes to hang out, who's not the nicest guy in the world, apparently, and is known to be, I can't remember his name, but they said that they've gotten the same name multiple times, but I don't know. I've never investigated here. I can't speak to any of that. So, but they do tours there constantly. So what you can see here is my face looks totally blurred out. Almost like I don't know what's going on with me here. I'm not moving around either. I want you to know that I'm not like a mover and a shaker when I'm out there doing this kind of stuff. I'm kind of zooming in, just completely gone. You might even, it feels like you might be able to see a little bit of my beard there. My salt and pepper beard, mostly salt now. It does sometimes give me the illusion of being blurry. I've always kind of been maybe a little bit blurry in photos, kind of like a squatch to a certain degree. But that's on stage because I'm always dancing around, moving around, doing stuff. But what you can see here is in this photo, now I'm completely lost on where's the photo? Where is it? Okay, there I am. So what you can see here is it's almost like there's something on top of me, something in front of me. Because if you look behind me, that stuff is clear. And if you look in front of me, that stuff is also clear. So what we have here is, it's an interesting situation where there's two photos that were sent to me. I'm not going to show the other one because it's harder. It's more difficult to see what we're talking about here. But the person who took this phone has an iPhone 17, brand new. I was with them when they got it. I don't know, not even 3 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago. One of these brand new, the newest. It's one of these iPhones that you can be outside at night and it can look like it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon because it lets that much light in. The lens is that good on these new phones. I'm so jealous. I mean, I have the 15, which is more than I need. And I'm still quite jealous of this phone. But yet here we are. Boom, I'm all blurred up. Now, there has been one other time where something like this has happened. This was by a campfire with some friends where I think we've covered this on the show before, where someone saw their deceased friend's face on my face, which you might be saying, hey, Ryan, that sounds like something you've experienced in the past that we've called morphing or shape-shifting on this program. And you'd be accurate in saying that it is in that neighborhood for sure. Now, I am not appearing to be anything or anyone else that I'm aware of in this photo. I'd like your input. I'd feel like someone who doesn't look at my face every day like I do, just because I have it, might have some interesting perspective. But you can see my hair, the complete totality of my face is blurred out, and it's strange. Now, something that is interesting is when I first walked backstage, a couple of guys were like, "So anything here?" And I go, "This is really thick back here," and they kept talking. I'm not sure they heard me or whatever. I'm like, I don't know if that's ever happened to you when you walk into a haunted location, but sometimes I can, I sense the energy is thicker, more like a stew than maybe a water, right? Like a porridge. It's like energetic porridge in the room as opposed to like water you could swim in and move about freely, but you can still feel it and it's still there and there's some resistance maybe sometimes. This one was sludgy. This one was very sludgy, and my throat actually feels a little bit tender right now, even talking about it. Now, what's interesting to me is when I lean into this and when I stop doubting myself like we all do, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm actually feeling this. And it's not just in my head because I think we're going to a place that's haunted or where there's activity happening. This is actually something I'm feeling right now. And someone else there, multiple people there, had sensations that weren't great, didn't want to be there. It was very creepy. Someone had a head thing, like a face thing, another person on their leg, like something was grabbing their leg. And I'm clearly, I was drawn to this particular area where I'm standing for some reason. Just as I had gotten back from, I believe, peeking down the stairway in the back, where someone said that they're like, oh, he's over there. I sense him. He's over there. And I went over and looked to see if I could see a shadow move or anything like that. This was probably, I don't know, 6:30 p.m. Still light outside, but obviously we're in a Masonic lodge, so it doesn't matter really what time it is, but there are some windows, I guess maybe not too far away, letting a little bit of light in. And then boom, I'm just completely covered. My face it's like I don't even have a face. And it kind of extends down past my neck. And my arms, I'm pretty sure, are just crossed. Although I could be doing this thing where I have my hand up touching my chin. I can't tell by this photo because now there's a gray blob there, right where my chest is. I'm actually just now kind of looking at that for the first time. And I had my sleeves rolled up. Sure, I had maybe a bracelet or two on with a watch, and I had my sapphire and my rune necklace on. But it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like a scarf hanging down. Anyway, so I didn't feel, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't feel like I was being attacked or being, confronted in any kind of way when I was standing there. I do remember feeling like, ugh, it's harder to breathe in here. And I think soon after this photo was taken is when we left the backstage area. I got to tell you, I wasn't sad to be leaving. That's for sure. Some of these haunted locations, it's more than just like, oh, I want to try to gather evidence. It's the sensation and the feeling that you get when you're in there is that of an uncomfortableness that is like, I don't need this in my life. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not seeking these kinds of sensations out. Like, hey, I want to go somewhere where it's hard to breathe and it feels energetically sludgy. That sounds like a Friday night. And this was a Saturday night. Yeah, so that was right before Matthew Jackson's ITC presentation. We went upstairs to the ceremonial room or whatever it's called, this giant room, and where they have the altars and things like that. Pretty cool stuff. And then Matthew Jackson did what he does best. He wowed people with an amazing presentation about ITC, what it is and where it's headed, specifically demonstrating the Prism device, and the whisper box, which we've briefly showed on here, I believe, once. And then also, you've heard me talk about Prism a bunch, I'm sure, because we use it on investigations. The investigation in Florida, and Matthew uses it on some other ones. But it is proprietary, I guess, if that's the word. Matthew's the only person out there using the Prism device. And I believe he has the only copy, or he has the only existing whisper box in existence as well. And that box is kind of bonkers. Now, he did a live demonstration of these devices. If you're ever anywhere where Matthew Jackson is giving a talk, a presentation on ITC, he will be bringing at least one of these devices, and you have to make the trip. You have to go see these things for yourself, truly to believe them and see where ITC is headed. And we're talking about, phrases, sometimes seemingly complete sentences coming through a device in an intelligent response format, which is what really, really gets the goose of anybody that's around there. And by that, I mean, it really, really excites them if you're too young to understand that phrase, which I'm probably too young to even use it properly. But a really, really great presentation. Matthew brings up some interesting things when it comes to ITC. And one of them is the ITC researcher coming from a very scientific point of view when it comes to interacting with and investigating the unknown, and how the history of ITC points to people just kind of like, hey, we got this device, turn on the switch and let's talk to it. Let's talk to them, or let's communicate. And, in doing so, maybe not understanding the history of spirit communication as far back as the very beginning of human communication, and wanting to communicate with something bigger than ourselves, which goes, prehistoric. It goes way back to it can be, we can decipher these things, that we're looking for things bigger than ourselves. We can do this by looking at cave paintings. We can do this looking at, the first written works, the Epic of Gilgamesh that we found carved into tablets, into stone. But even before that, we can know that through gathering, having gathering places, and archaeologists and paleontologists and scientists and historians have shown us that the communing with one another and telling stories is a huge part of what it means to be the human creature. And from that, we can deduce, we can assume, and we can assume correctly, that some of these stories, obviously, because we have oral tradition that has been passed down, and some of it has been then later written into some of the oldest stories that we have accessible to us today, and religious texts and whatever else. We're looking for something bigger. We're looking for something outside of ourselves. And we've been doing that since we were even aware that we could do that. That's something we can assume correctly. Now, part of the presentation, Matthew, he touches on the fact that radio wasn't invented until in the early 1890s is when radio was first invented. And then not long after that, you have ITC that pops up. Not a surprise, if you ask me. We're always looking for ways to communicate with the dead and the beyond, or God, or aliens, or other, or whatever it is, right? So what tools do we have at our disposal? What technology do we have at our disposal? When it's new, we use it. I mean, look at people using AI. And I have my own opinions about that. When people are like, oh, I've been asking AI about spirituality and the paranormal. And it's like, AI it sources everything from the internet, man. Everything that's already been written, said, or captured on the internet is just sourcing from there. But if you believe that intelligence and entities or whatever can utilize radio devices that are scanning radio stations backwards, I guess I have to stop being such a bastard curmudgeon and think that maybe it could use AI too to communicate. Even though I'm on the side of I don't use AI in any of my investigations, and I'd have a hard time personally as an investigator incorporating AI into my investigation techniques. I have seen instances of AI being used with people I investigate with, in fact, where it's just like, wow, that's crazy, right? So I have seen it, and it has been at times a little too close for comfort to some stuff, right? There's one specific example that may or may not make it into the documentary I'm working on now, but that's neither here nor there right now. But so basically what I'm saying is if you use it, that's fine. I'm just saying I'd have a hard time using it, and just from, the paradigm I operate from within and from my perspective, and, the things that I'm trying to I don't know, trying to accomplish, which I don't even exactly know what those are sometimes. I mean, I could sit here and be like, I don't have it all written out, right? Like, these are the objectives of all my paranormal investigations. This is what Ryan Singer is trying to do. Like, it's not really that big, man. I mean, it's not, I don't sit around and think about it like that, right? And that's not like, this is what, I, that's not, I'm not sitting around thinking about it in, okay, how will this look later perspective. I'm kind of just trying to be in the moment and doing it as we do it. Now, when I'm working on a project and editing it together, it's all about the later, obviously, and how does this look, and how does this fit together, and how does this come off, and what are the key things that are what are the themes that are running through here, and one of them is ITC. And the ability of ITC to really create a bridge from consciousness to consciousness. I mean, ITC can be a bridge. And Mark Macy talks about the seven and talks about building a bridge. In fact, uses that exact term. I've been obsessed with bridges. You know, as you know, for quite a while. There's something really fascinating about the idea of the advancement in technology potentially being able to zero in on and identify frequencies and vibrations that in fact might be communication from spirit and or aliens and or other. We're talking about frequencies that maybe that the human body, at least at this time, in mass, aren't tuned to pick up and to hear. Although psychics and clairvoyants and channels and mediums, etc., any of the clairs, step right up with any of the clairs. It's like playing musical clairs, if you will, when it comes to psi phenomena. But they're picking it up. Potentially, that is what they're picking up, right? So when it comes to communication from, let's say, ET, and they're using consciousness in an advanced way to communicate thoughts and big things, you can do the Robert Monroe Gateway program, and it will train you to try to, understand how to, he calls it NVC, nonverbal communication. And that's not like walking up and like, dancing if you're in a good mood to someone, although that can be part of it, right? But we're talking about nonverbal communication, which might be difficult, and it has been difficult for me to wrap my brain around when it comes to at least the protocols of the Gateway program, and advancing further into that as it starts getting less and less grounded in the materialistic world, or at least by things that we're familiar with when it comes to communication, or what we thought was actually possible when it came to communication and or astral travel. Now, it's all fine and dandy, right? But then you get ITC that might be able to actually pin some of this stuff down in a tangible way that might make it easier for people to access. And accessibility is key when it comes to communication with the great beyond. And as soon as communication with the great beyond becomes incredibly easy and or streamlined for people, I think then when they are using a device that they understand beyond the shadow of a doubt, it's communicating with an intelligence greater than and outside of themselves, that is somehow connected to a universal consciousness, a global consciousness, whatever you want to call it, an infinite consciousness of knowledge, emotions, feelings, and language, and experience. Then when you know that this device is tapping into, like, it's the noodle getting dropped into the consciousness soup, and it's delivering soup to you, knowing that that exists for real, and knowing also that other people have been getting this information just with their bodies, that they don't need the ITC device, that they've been able to do it with their physical senses, with their physical body, and or tapping into beyond the physical, through their mind and through their thoughts and tapping into their consciousness abilities that way, I think it becomes a much easier step for people to be like, oh, I should be doing that then too. I should be training myself because it's clearly possible. It's like this. It's like the 4 minute mile. As soon as Roger Bannister ran the 4 minute mile, a lot of people were suddenly able to run the mile in under 4 minutes. When people are seeing public demonstrations of psychic abilities or consciousness communication or telepathy or telekinesis, whoever the Roger Bannister is that they see, that's when they realize, like, oh, yes, this is real. And one of those things is remote viewing. And remote viewing was touched on in Disclosure Day, what I would argue, like in a large way. And we're going to do one more break and we're going to come back. And I want to talk a little bit about it. I'm probably running out of time and it might not be so bad anyway, but we're going to be doing a little bit about Ingo Swann and maybe some of the, the more well-known or greatest remote viewers that have been, at least that we're aware of, in the world up to now. That have kind of made it a thing that people know about. So patreon.com/Ryan Singer, you're listening or watching Late Night on the Astral Plane. I'm doing a live version of the show at Go Bananas Comedy Club on August 9th. Isn't that going to be rad? If you're anywhere near Cincinnati, you need to come to that show on Sunday night, August 9th at Go Bananas Comedy Club. It's going to be super, super rad. And I've got some special guests joining me. It's going to make the show really, really fun. So we're going to be right back after this last little commercial break. So don't you go anywhere unless you're getting yourself an lollipop or maybe some peanut butter M&Ms. Okay, we're back. At least I'm back. I hope you're back as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about, I think we've gotten into the history of remote viewing a little bit here. I've got some things pulled up that I might want to reference, but I mean, Ingo Swann is probably a name you've heard of, a fascinating character. I need to do a deep dive. I've always wanted to do a series on this show called Profiles in the Paranormal, to the fact that where I think it should be its own spinoff. It should be its own show, in fact. Deep dives on, character bios. I was at a really cool library in St. Louis area over the weekend. And there's something about a wonderful library. I mean, and all libraries are wonderful for the most part. All libraries are wonderful for the most part, don't you say, John? So I don't know who's coming through right now, but they need to relax because I'm trying to talk about a library that's just so wonderful. Yes, this isn't. I feel like it's a wonderful life is coming through. We can do it. We can buckle down. We can focus. I've been driving across the country a bunch. I've been doing a lot of driving the last couple of weeks, and if you're someone who drives along around the country a bunch, you also know what happens to the mind when you're doing that. It's a lot of voices, a lot of people coming through, a lot of people having conversations. And it doesn't matter, especially if you have a good road trip buddy with you. And I got one of the best road trip buddies, and the voices that are coming out are insanity. So what was I talking about here? Oh, Ingo Swann, right, is a name I'm sure you've heard of. Now, Ingo Swann was used in the Stargate project, right? The secret United States Army unit, 1977, that was established, I believe. And is it a coincidence that it was, right after I was born that came out? I'd say yes, 100%. It's just real quick here. It was a unit established in 1977. It was run out of Fort Meade, and that was in Maryland by the DIA. The DIA, they got their hands in everything. You don't really hear about the DIA, the government and their acronyms, right? You don't hear about the DIA as much as you hear like the CIA or the DOD. The DIA kind of slips under the radar a little bit, pun intended. And then you got like what the Air Force, or the Army intelligence. I think they are kind of related to the Air Force, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so the DIA, in conjunction with Stanford Research Institute, which was considered just a contractor to investigate the potential for psychic phenomena in military and domestic intelligence applications. And Stanford Research Institute, when we can get into Stanford a little bit, and you know my guy, Dr. Philip Zimbardo, who I'm so disappointed in that man who did the Stanford prison experiments, which he's famous for, and wrote a book about it and everything else. I read the book years ago, and I was like, oh my God, we're all just affected by the systems that we're inside of. And do I believe that to some degree we are affected by the system we're inside of? Yes, I do, but I don't. I'm not nearly as hell bent on it as I used to be. Zimbardo was just kind of a grifter. He fudged the results to have the results he wanted, so he could be famous and be on TV and be the Neil deGrasse Tyson of psychology or social experiments, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson is just kind of like a pop culture scientist, in my opinion. But something about him just kind of he doesn't. Anyway, we don't need to get into that. We need to talk about things we love and not talk about people that, annoy us. Anyway, so Ingo Swann, I believe he's credited with being one of the first people who called it remote viewing as well. Now, what's interesting is he never considered himself a scientist or anything like that. He was an artist, and a truly, truly gifted artist when it came to his psychic abilities. And I was listening to New Thinking Aloud or it was a Thinking Aloud or New Thinking Aloud. It was either the previous or the new version of Dr. Jeffrey Mishlov's show. And he had Russell Targ on. Or was it Russell Targ? Oh man, I wish I could remember this for you. And I turned off my viewing history on YouTube because I was like, I don't need you knowing everything I ever do, right? Gmail, Google, because Google owns. Anyway, you get it. The point is, they talked for about an hour about the history of remote viewing to a certain degree. And the interesting thing I didn't know about Ingo Swann and maybe a few other people that may have been involved was there was a Scientology connection. And there's some belief that the protocols that you get put through in Scientology actually can enhance. Like, I think Ingo Swann became like a master theta or something or whatever. That sounds too close to a word, but anyway, there was people in Scientology involved, and something about Scientology made it, I don't know, conducive to tapping into psychic abilities, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction author, and he was a grifter. I know I use that word a lot. I use the word grifter probably too often, but I mean, have you seen, there's so many grifters out there. So, but any hoodles, L. Ron Hubbard wasn't channeling, some alien god source of divine truth and information. He was a science fiction author. And years ago, I was obsessed with the whole connection between, we don't have to get into that. But, it's like the beginnings of NASA and blah, 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 rockets. Anyway, they were all all these guys knew each other back then, right? So L. Ron Hubbard knew, or didn't know, but Aleister Crowley knew of L. Ron Hubbard and did not like him at all. And so when Aleister Crowley thinks you're a grifter, watch out, right? So, but Ingo Swann was a Scientologist. And then, so people will be thinking like, well, wow, should I rethink Scientology is all a huge real estate scam? And some of the people involved in the higher ups are just really, really bad people because of what they do, making you cut off communication with your friends and family and putting you on a cruise ship out in the ocean where there's, it's no international laws. No. I mean, because he did steal the money to buy the original cruise ship, to buy the original ship so they could be on the boats. But the point is, he was no longer a Scientologist. At some point, Ingo Swann, he separated himself from the Church of Scientology, which is not easy to do from most accounts. So he got out of the Church of Scientology. But there is something interesting that makes me want to dig a little deeper and dive a little further into the abyss to try to understand maybe what some of those protocols are. Because it doesn't matter if you're doing a grift or not. If you're doing a really good, like religious kind of cult scam on people, you need to have something of substance along the way, right? Or you have to have something for people to believe in, and you have to have something that at least can give somebody a little bit of results to make them feel like they're making progress or coming closer to God in some kind of way. Now, the religious experience is a big, it's a big component of being involved in a religious community, especially when it's intense, like Scientology is. So there needs to be something that can kind of pay dividends to that intensity. And religious experience or tapping into psychic abilities or tapping into consciousness is one of those things. Now, just because you're a grifter doesn't mean you can't have access or understand that consciousness is extremely powerful to be tapped into, and that there could be exceptional benefits to doing so, and finding ways to tap that consciousness keg, if we can call it that. I hope I can remember this phrase. Maybe I'm going to try to remember this phrase because I like it. So when we try to tap the consciousness keg, there are many different taps we can use. Do you want to use the Gateway Voyage meditations? Do you want to use your own meditation? Do you want to use yoga? Do you want to use your prayer? Do you want to use, intense exercise? Do you want to use psychedelic drugs? How are you tapping the consciousness keg? And if it works and the consciousness flows out and it's not too bubbly because there's air in the line, sometimes there's air in the line. There's a lot of air in the line when I tap the consciousness keg, especially with doing the Gateway Voyage meditations. It's like, it's work. It's work building up into this. And there's things maybe I still just need to shed or whatever. But there's still air in my line sometimes, and it makes it a little too frothy, a little too bubbly. But if you can tap into that consciousness keg, there's all kinds of different ways to tap into it. There's all different kind of taps you can get. Scientology clearly has a tap that works for a decent amount of people when it comes to tapping into the consciousness keg and getting into like psi abilities and ESP, things like that, right? So, and feeling connected to something much, much bigger than yourself, which is exactly what happens when you tap that consciousness keg and you pull the lever and the tap is flowing. It's overwhelming emotionally, in fact. I mean, I can speak from experience that it just makes you want to start crying. And it's like joyful and it's sorrowful. It's all the things simultaneously, but it's not bad. It's not bad in any way. And it makes you want to tap that keg more. In fact, it makes you want to go back and just keep tapping that keg. But $5 a cup. Okay, everybody, $5 at the door. You get a cup. If you lose your cup, you have to pay $5 for another cup. That's kind of like the cult vibe, right? Like, oh, you want to tap this keg? You got to give me all your money and stuff so I can live in Hawaii. And now we're all moving to Hawaii because, the 17 of you actually had a little bit of money saved, gave it all to me because I told you that if you had money, it would be dragging you down. And now I get to live in Hawaii because I showed you how to tap the consciousness keg. It was intense and it was effective enough to make you just sign over all your assets to me. That is a cult, right? Ingo Swann was really good at tapping into the consciousness keg. And, his followers would say he's the best all time. The skeptics would say, there's not really anything he was able to, repeat over and over and over again. However, in parapsychology, there are people who will tell you different, that in fact, he was able to do this. And the remote viewing results that he gave were astounding and were almost guaranteed every time he did it. Now, in the movie Disclosure Day, there's a lot of remote viewing going on, or at least in my opinion, right? Now, or what is portrayed as such, even though they don't call it that, okay? But what's interesting here is, you know, if I go way, way back to the beginning of the podcast, there was a time where I had my buddy Brent Weinbach, brilliant comedian and actor and creator. He was on the show. And through a Kung Fu master, he was learning remote viewing. So there are many different ways into this. Now, to remote view, to be able to see remotely using your consciousness, you can travel through time and or space. Now, there's a handful of like really famous remote viewers. Ingo Swann is probably at the top of the list. There's Joseph McMoneagle, who was a military remote viewer. Another one, Pat Price, Paul Smith, David Morehouse. There's a guy named Stephen Schwartz who remote views into the future, right? The Oracle of Delphi, a remote is, and obviously, one of the goats, according to a lot of people, who's in this world. It's a name that's a goat. It's got goat context, right? One of the most famous psychics in history, Edgar Cayce, right? I don't know. I'd love to talk to a remote viewer. Remote viewing obviously is something that I would love to be doing, and I have full disclosure. I have tried to do remote viewing. It's part of the Monroe Gateway program. Remote viewing is one of the exercises you end up doing. I have been trying to practice remote viewing and actually become, what's the word I'm looking for? Proficient in doing so. I'm not there yet. I will be a remote viewer before I die. Now, there was not Dr. Doom, Major Doom, Major Ed Dames, I believe was his name. He used to have commercials on all the time, and he used to teach remote viewing apparently in the armed forces, and he was telling people like it's coming, and kind of like buy my course, buy my thing, pick your place on the map where you can build your bunker. That's what he was doing. Major Ed Dames, yeah. That was remote viewing. So remote viewing there's been people out there for a long time claiming to teach you or be able to teach you. I think you got to come to it on your own. You got to figure it out. You have to figure out who and how and why or where and what in what way you want to learn remote viewing if it's something you're interested in. I wanted to go deeper into remote viewing, but this has already gone on long enough for me to not want to just double the length of this episode. So we're going to do this later. I think we probably already had my buddy Karen back on the show by the time I'm putting this one out, but which will give me plenty of time to, dive deeper into, and pun intended, if you know what I'm talking about, for those out there. But we're going to get back into remote viewing more. But and I want to dive a little more into Ingo Swann, because Ingo's a pretty fascinating individual, considering how well known he became. Many would say that he's the most famous person who did remote viewing and kind of paved the way for people. Contributing to the rise of parapsychology in a major way. I mean, he was definitely studied by the government intensely and for a long time. So what does that tell you? That tells you that there's some kind of results happening, right? And there are people obviously involved who believe that the results were real. Now, are we ever going to get all this information? Are we ever going to know everything that was remote viewed in the future? Because they're remote viewing the future and things like that. I don't know. That's part of disclosure, right? And disclosure, lowercase d. All that information, all the psi stuff. I think that's the stuff that's going to be, really, really mind blowing to people, more so than the the aliens walking around. I think it's the other stuff. It's the human potential and the limitless nature of the human mind and the abilities that we can tap into. I think that's going to be the most mind-blowing facet of disclosure when we get there. And there's people been doing it, like I said already, and it is the onus is on us in many ways to take that step forward and to embrace it and to seek it out and to read a book every once in a while and to understand that, we can share these things and they have to be done in the right way. You can't just go walk up to somebody like, I'm going to tell you about disclosure right now. You need to sit down, stranger. That's just not going to work. You don't want to be the guy banging on the burning trash can. You don't want to be the gal shouting at people from a building top, carrying a torch. We need to be, you don't want to be the person out there doing the crazy antics to get the attention, because then the attention is not, it's not genuine it's not a seeking attention that they're giving you. There's no curiosity there. There's more of a, I guess the curiosity is more bent towards like a kind of like a spectacle curiosity more than like a genuine curiosity that can spark the imagination, that can lead to the search and the understanding of the mystery involved. So yeah, let's wrap this one up. I hope you're doing well. The summer is hot and the lizard likes it. So I hope you're enjoying the heat. This lizard is loving it. Every single second of it. I was in Las Vegas. It was 107 degrees. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Anyway, I hope you're doing amazing. And I look forward to, seeing you the next week out here. Because remember, it doesn't matter. If you're falling behind on these, don't worry. It's never too late out here on the astral plane. It's more fun to believe. All those good things. If I don't see you at a live comedy show, I'll be at the Comedy Attic in Bloomington, Indiana, July 9th and 10th. I'll be at Go Bananas. I'll be at Mason City Limits in Mason City, Illinois, July 30th, August 1st, and I'll be at Go Bananas, August 6th through the 9th. And remember, 6th through the 8th, I'll be recording an album, and on the 9th, I'll be doing a live late night on the astral plane. I look forward to seeing you at a show, and if not, I'll just see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.
Now receiving frequency transmission.
How do we know what's real? There's so many things that are unknown in this universe that I'm thankful I don't know the answers to. In many ways, I feel like the unknown is a gift. It allows us to imagine what could be. And sometimes imagining what could be is actually greater than staring right at what is. Our brains try so hard to manufacture certainty, and in our attempts to manufacture certainty, I think we get stuck, and that causes us often to ignore what is real for one person, which may be completely unreal for someone else. So how do we know what's real? We don't. Not knowing what is real allows us to peer more deeply into what could be. And that is a gift in and of itself.
Transmission complete. Stay tuned to Spectrovision Radio. Stay.